All right. So, welcome. Glad y'all are here. Here's my introduction to high school officiating, to officiating the game of football. And so, what I want to do is to introduce someone who has like a solid knowledge of football, the basic background, but a basic introduction into the practice of officiating high school football and how to do it properly. That way, if you were to step in, you could at least survive and just do it correctly and learn how to do the job and control the mechanics of a game. So to start, I'm going to start off with this very cool video. It'll display a moment of when proper officiating was very important. And I'll explain the context in a little bit.
Google Pixel, the only phone made by Google. Because when Google makes your...
The Patriots and the home team, Kansas City Chiefs. There's a big down right now with this Rams defense. They convert. There's a good chance the Saints are going to come away with more points on this possession. Looks like they're going to try to bring some pressure. Right here, expect him. That's Fowler off the edge. Breeze throws, a lot of contact. No flag. Mikel Roby-Coleman was there defending. It was Ted Ginn, the target. Let's look at this again. It definitely looked to me like a hold. It didn't look like he was allowing him to come out of the break. He wanted to try to work back towards the boundary. Offering all the way outside to relay the play. And there were whistles. The pass is incomplete. The question is, did the play count? And there looks to be some confusion down on the field right now, or was there a timeout called? Here's the call.
Prior to the snap, first charge timeout.
10. Quick snap. Breeze. Pass is incomplete. No flag for Tommy Lee Lewis. Mikel Roby-Coleman delivered a hit. And the two officials talk to each other. Crowd's going crazy as there's no flag right on the Saints sideline. Well, if Mikel Roby-Coleman plays the ball, it's an interception. It's probably going the other way with it. I mean, the ball's on the other side of Roby-Coleman, but that should have been a penalty. And John Payton is justifiably upset. Mike Pereira, if that was a penalty, that would have in essence ended the game. Did you think it was a penalty?
Yeah, I really do. I know it's easy in slow motion. They're close to bang bang, but that was early enough. Even high contact on the receipt.
Clearly contact before the ball got there. Yeah, he had. I mean, all he was doing was staring down Lewis and just playing.
All right. So that was from 2018. When the Los Angeles Rams played the New Orleans Saints in a playoff game, and the winner was going to go to the Super Bowl, which is the biggest game, biggest show of spectacles. The players that win the Super Bowl get 6-digit bonuses on top of their salaries, and it's the biggest event in the world that they have to offer. And we have this example of officiating where there was contact before the ball got to the receiver, and that last play, where it looks like he actually just knocked him off the field, should have been called a penalty, and everyone else, as with almost an entirely consensus opinion among people that watched the game or that know football, that saw clips of the game after the fact, saw that it was a penalty. And proper officiating helped Los Angeles get back into the ball game when, had that penalty been called, the proper enforcement, New Orleans would have won the game and gone to the Super Bowl. Meanwhile, it swung the outcome of the game to the other team won and made it to the Super Bowl, and the other team was eliminated for the season in such a big event and with such big stakes. So, to start out, what we're going to do is that we're going to have y'all on one chair going to be one pair, y'all on another chair going to be like another group of 3. And what I want y'all to do is to think on this question: why is good and fundamentally sound officiating important to sports? Like, what is the importance of it? So first, y'all are going to take some time to just think about the answer amongst yourselves. Then y'all are going to get in y'all's groups, talk about it, and talk about certain answers that y'all come up with and bounce ideas off each other. And then when I come back in a couple minutes, y'all are going to share with me what y'all came up with as a group. Why is good and fundamentally sound officiating important in any game of sports. So y'all go ahead and start thinking amongst yourselves there.
Ways.
Well, it's important because if they don't call the proper rules of the game, when they do some pass in the game, it will give the team that's supposed to have the win, they were not. So it's not right. You don't give the credit to the team who really implement the good pass in the game. It's really important for them, and it's fundamental because it makes them feel like they are what did you call when they are alienated with somebody, and the other team is not the favorite one. It makes the other ones to alienate to certain kind of team instead of the other one they're supposed to be the one. And also create tension. Also one thing that is also it create tensions between the teams and the associations of the teams. It create tension. So I don't think it should be good. It should be fundamental. It should be by the rules.
So the right team wins it.
Exactly.
Knowledge all the
That the
rules
team that is supposed to have won, the team that did right, the right pass, the right move, that played well.
It's
And-
not
and
just a
it's-
team, it's an individual
needs
for
to
team.
be there.
Do it the right person.
People
based
and
upon the call or
he
versus
also
based
needs to
upon the right call.
watch
So that's why they have
every
rules.
moment on this game to check if the players are doing proper.
All right. So for our first group over here, like what answers did we come up with as to the importance of officiating, it being proper and good?
Well, we were talking in the group, and I said that it's really, really important when they do the rules, when they make the right calls, when they do the movement on the game, because it gives to the team credit to the team that really played well, and the team that does really good, and the other ones and the team that's supposed to be win the game. It makes them feel that they are doing good.
Mm-hmm.
It makes also this is really important it's really important fundamental because also all the teams are going to be watching that,
Mm-hmm.
and then it makes people to go partiality. It makes other people to go partiality against one team or the
Okay.
other one when they don't do it right.
Okay.
And also we were discussing it makes sense when they go by the rules. It makes the right team that's supposed to win.
All right.
Give the credit to the right team.
Okay. Well, what answers did y'all come up with?
Yeah, what feels like they are very important because they have to think about all the rules all the time and care about each moment during the game. And what they do is to make the both sides even, and because sometimes if you don't do it properly, you make some players angry, or they'll feel upset about your choice, and that will influence the whole team's score or something. So it's really important to do the right choice.
Okay, that's a good one. So that's probably the biggest example that I was thinking of, just to keep control and keep a proper flow of the game. There was one game last year that I refereed where one team had 9 unsportsmanlike conduct penalties because they felt that they were getting the wrong end of the calls. And so it drove them into a frenzy, it drove them into an anger. It's where you couldn't control them, like you were saying. So it was a very good point made that it's a good way to maintain control, maintain a flow of the game, and also to maintain justice, as you said, of the game. And just make sure the team that deserves to win does win, and that order and fair play and sportsmanship is followed. So those are both very good answers, and those are just some main reasons I was thinking about on top of the fact that there are fans and parents present, and especially in the middle school and high school ranks, that these are kids that you're trying to develop develop their instincts, develop their skills. And you don't want any anger, any malice to creep into that, especially while they're just children. So that was a good discussion. So now I'm just going to give y'all a crash course into what the basic penalties of the game are and what signals you make to display to the crowd or to the football field once you have to call a penalty on a team here or there. And so first up, you got to talk about the official start and the end of play. So it's a very arduous process as referees. That it looks a lot smoother when it's on TV, just because it doesn't follow the referees. But the referees place the football down on the ground, and then they blow a whistle for play. I didn't bring my whistle because it'd be very loud in an indoor setting and disturb some neighbors, but that's the whistle for play. And then they signal to start the play. So after the ball is placed in the starting spot, the referee blows the whistle to signal the start of play. So you're like, hey, you can go ahead and make your play starting now. And so there is a clock that goes on, and you have until the clock hits 0 to start the play. If you don't get the snap off by the time the play clock hits 0, you have a delay of game penalty, which is assessed. That is this motion. And play ends with a whistle as soon as the person that holds the ball is tackled to the ground, whether it's like a knee or elbow or torso level. The play has stalled, so there's like no movement and people are just standing still, or like a ball is thrown and it hits the ground. So those are the 3 ways that play does end, and that ends with a whistle as soon as that happens. And that's very important because people will keep on running and making contact with each other up until the whistle is blown. And so this official start and end of play is important to keeping order here. And then the next type of fouls I will talk about is pre-snap fouls. So in that pre-video, you saw the offense, so the team that had the ball, that is in charge of advancing the ball, compared to the defense, the team that is trying to keep the ball from going into their own net. So there are 2 types of pre-snap fouls that I want to look at. First is a false start. So it's similar to track. Whenever you see in the Olympics when someone gets off the blocks a little too early, that is this type of false start as well. That's when anyone on the offense makes a motion that makes it look like they're going to start play a little early. So it could be someone that's about to run down the field making a step too early, or an offensive lineman or someone else getting out of their stance a little bit too early. But that would be a false start. That is this motion. It's a motion that you'll see a lot when you see football broadcasts go down. And then when a defense crosses the boundary where the ball is and crosses into the other team's space, that is called encroachment. And so that is this motion right here, hands on the hips, and that is when anyone on defense jumps across the line of scrimmage before the start of play. And so then there's another type of pre-snap foul that is very, very difficult and very hard to differentiate, but I'll do my best to show this to you. So a motion is when any offensive player that isn't on the offensive line, once you get set for a ball, get set for a play, anyone that's not on the line can run around as long as you're not running forward when the ball is snapped. You can run in all sorts of directions, backwards or parallel. You can run backwards behind the line, or you can run parallel to the line. And then a shift is a simultaneous motion of more than one player. And so you'll see some plays where it's just one person going from one side of a formation, running all the way to the other side. That's perfectly fine. You also see a shift, and when it's 2 people do the same thing, you'll see that is not as common, but you will see that happen. But an illegal motion is when a player is running towards the line of scrimmage at the time a ball is snapped. So say that someone is running from one side of the formation and they try to make their way all the way to the other side, but they start turning upfield too early. That is a flag. That is illegal motion when they go and start making that motion upfield. Now, an illegal shift is a little different. That's when multiple players move, but not all of them have stopped for at least a second before the ball is snapped. So whenever it's just one player, they can be moving when the ball is snapped. When it's 2 players, they have to stop for at least a second before the ball is snapped. And that was one play that I did see quite a bit of last year officiating, that people did an illegal motion or an illegal shift. So illegal motion hand is just one hand, where you start from your center, extend it out. That is one illegal motion penalty signal. Then illegal shift, since it's two players that are moving or multiple, you use multiple hands, and you do that. So, guess to demonstrate, Mr. Teresa, you come on up. So, all right. So just show the class which one is the shift one. Which one is the shift or the shift penalty?
The one
The one is the motion. So do the motion penalty.
motion,
Okay, and the shift is multiple.
so it's two.
So it's two. Okay.
Mhm.
All right. And then what was the false start one? Did you remember the false start?
This one?
Yeah, that was the rolling your hands,
Okay.
doing the rolling motion. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys. You see
What,
that?
what is it when it's two?
Two is the shift, illegal shift.
It has to be two to make it illegal.
Yeah, it has to be multiple players for an illegal shift. So, so let's see what penalties are these. So on the left, you'll see this person is jumping out of his stance, but it doesn't look like anyone else on the offense is breaking out of the stance. Is that false start is that a false start, or is that encroachment or jumping off sides?
Encroachment.
This is a false start because this person on the offense, they have the ball and they're making a motion of the play before it has been snapped. And so that is the false start. Meanwhile, this one, you see that the ball is right here. This is a team with the ball. This is a defense. They don't have the ball. And you see a hand right where the ball should be. Is that a false start move or is that an encroachment penalty?
Encroach.
Yes, that is encroachment because the defense is jumping into the other team's territory. And then there's this one complicated video there that shows just how subjective this judgment call is. And so this one, is it an illegal shift with one person, with multiple people moving and not stopping? Is it an illegal motion with a person running forward at the time of the snap? Or is it the false start? Okay, so that went a little quick the first time. I'm going to go ahead and slow this down. And start the video one more time and see if y'all can tell me if it's the motion, shift, or a false start penalty. Okay, so what do y'all think that penalty was? Raise your hand if you think that was an illegal shift. Raise your hands if you think that it was that they started too early, that it was a false start. Okay, and raise your hands if you think that was an illegal motion. Okay, so this one's a bit difficult to tell, but judging by the motions here, I think this motion is good because he was still moving parallel at the side, but I think that second person was actually making a movement that was part of his assignment in the play. So as much as that looks like a shift with multiple people moving, I think that would be just a simple false start penalty. But either way, if that ever happens in a real game, it just looks like something's wrong. You just got to throw a flag. You can't let that go on. It's a judgment call, but I would call that a false start penalty.
Very hard to see though.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And so the next kind of fouls we'll talk about are in-air fouls. So you saw how football is partly about running the football, handing it off, and just making contact. But the more efficient way to get yards is to throw it over the air and have the ball travel through the air by throwing one person to another. And so these are two very common fouls that you'll see in air. First one is pass interference. And so that's when anyone makes any form of contact with another person and that to where they can't catch the ball before the ball has touched a player. So, May, if you can please stand up for me. So let's say that a ball is coming in this direction, and when the ball is right there, I just go ahead and just knock him back
Before he touched.
before he has a chance of catching it. Before he has a chance of that. That is a foul. You obviously can't do that. And the thing is, it's not just on the offense. It could be on the person trying to catch the ball that has the ball already. It could be on the defense as well. It could be an offense or defensive penalty. So if he does the same thing to me, like pushes me off, go ahead, pushes me off, and then he catches the ball and he scores.
Or he's the defense.
That's the pass interference penalty either way. So it's when anyone makes any form of contact. It doesn't even have to be while the ball is in the air. It could just be at the first beginning of the play, and they're just grabbing each other too hard, and they're just throwing each other out of the way. Thank you. Yeah. And so that happens. And then there's intentional grounding, and that's exactly what it sounds like. Whenever you ground the ball on purpose, and that's when a pass is intentionally thrown to an area where where no one's going to catch it at all. Usually, you see this when the quarterback is about to get tackled for a huge loss of yardage and the ball's about to move backwards a lot and he just makes up one big throw. It doesn't matter as long as it looks like it was intentional and if the receiver was not in the area. That's a penalty and it's a big no-no as well. And so pass interference is a simple push-off motion. That's the motion for that penalty. And then you have intentional grounding. And you do that with a simple motion with both your hands going towards the ground. That is intentional grounding. So then this is where it gets a little tricky, but it'll be easy to figure this out once I explain this to you. Then there are blocking fouls. So football being a contact sport, you can make contact with people while you don't have the ball or you're not trying to get the ball. But there's specific ways that you have to do it. So, Joe, if you could stand up for me while I demonstrate. You can push out and block like this. Like you can go ahead and push off a force and get someone away from the ball to make them not able to tackle you. So, but there are a lot of ways that you can do this wrong. So first up is holding, and that's whenever I make any attempt at like interlock blocking or restraining blocking. So if I get under and like that way I hold on to him, that's a penalty right there. That's holding. Or let's say that like you do the same thing. You pretend to block me, and then I fall on the ground and he just like lays on me and just pushes me onto the ground
And keep you
like there, and like he pretends to doesn't let me get up. That's not okay either. It's a bit of a holding call.
Can they do that when they were passing the ball? When he's gonna get the ball?
No, you can't do any interlock blocking or any of that type of grabbing at all. And that's just not legal either way. And then there is a block below the waist. So, Coco, if you want, I'll have you show that. Thank you, Joe. So, blocking below the waist and clipping or chop blocking, it's any block under in your knees or your legs, lower extremities. It doesn't happen directly after a snap is made. So let's say I'm an offensive lineman and I get the ball and I wait a few seconds and then all of a sudden I just go in and try to cut out her legs from under her. You have to do it right away. So whenever the ball snaps, you have to make that motion and drop right away. But if you wait, that is a penalty. That is a block below the waist, or a clip, or a chop block.
So how long that would be the time for them to call it penalty?
It's just if it happens and it's not directly right away. So it's more of a judgment call. So if you see that maybe it was like a split second that they waited, maybe they'll let that get away with it. But if it's like 2-3 seconds and then they go ahead and try to make that cut block, that's not okay. And that was a big point of emphasis between all of us as officials. And then block in the back is a similar exception. You have to do it right away, and you have to do it as an offensive lineman in a specific area, but you can't block in the back further on downfield. So if she were to push me and block in the back, and just that's unsafe, dangerous, that's like blindside, you can't do that. And then, all right, and then thank you, Coco, you take a seat for it. And then this last one would be a blindside block, and that's when you block in the open field outside of the target's line of sight with open hands. So, I don't know, so if you're ever driving a car, driving a vehicle on a freeway and then you get rear-ended, obviously that's not okay on the freeway, but on the football field, between people, that's not okay, and it's very unsafe and dangerous when you're not prepared for that. And so that is a penalty as well. And so this is a foul for holding. So he's holding on. Then below the waist is this. You put your hands below your waist and make the motion. And then blocking the back is similar to pass interference. And then the blind side block is clenching your fists and putting it together. So that is been a lot of once, but I think we can differentiate this here and there. So on the left, what blocking foul do you think is committed right here? You see number 14 in red has his arms extended a little bit, and there's a player in white running in that direction as well. What foul do you think is committed there?
Blindside?
Back.
In the back? The back? Okay. Yeah, that would be the proper call. And then, which signal is that? Blocking the back? Pushing in the back. Is this? Okay, good. And then, what do y'all think this kind of block is? That block is very much a penalty. You think that's a blind side? And I saw you do the motion. Could you stand up and do the motion for us and show them the motion real quick? That? All right, yes. So, yeah, and so these are penalties that you will see more often when you are officiating, because it's just very common and just something that you don't have to think about to do. Whenever you play football, you're more in the mindset of make contact, do what I can to get people away from the ball. And so you'll see people push in the back. You'll see people to make the most wicked blindside blocks you've ever seen and try to make it as hard as they can, because it'll make them feel good or make them gain approval from their classmates or from their teammates. And so those are a couple blocking fouls. And then we have dangerous fouls. And so face masks. So all football players wear a helmet. And so you see that red face mask. It provides a bit of a covering and protection. And so a face mask is when you actually grab it by the plastic or the metal that's there and pull it to try to gain an advantage. So that would be the face mask, and that is the penalty for that. And then there is a horse collar tackle, and that's when you grab on the inside the back collar of a ball carrier to try to tackle him. See some of y'all's eyes and y'all's reactions right now. Yes, it is very dangerous, and it could cause a lot of head injury. It could snap people's necks. It's not the nicest way to tackle people. Now, Teresa, if you stand up for me. Now, if you were to come from behind and make a tackle like this, to where you're not grabbing on the collar, but you're grabbing here on the chest or on the shoulder pads, that is perfectly fine. But if you just grab the collar, that is where it turns into a penalty, and that's where it gets dangerous. And it was like I like that name. It's an apt name for the horse collar. Thank you. And then So that's the signal for a horse collar. And then you have roughing the passer. And that's when you make contact with the quarterback well after the football's been thrown out of their possession. So if I'm dropping back, I make a throw, and the throw's long gone, but one of y'all decide to come tackle me and throw me to the floor anyways, that's an unsafe tackle, and so that is roughing the passer there. So which one of these is the horse collar? Which one of these is not the horse collar? So how many of y'all think that the horse collar penalty is the picture on the left? Good, yeah, you all got it right. That left is a horse collar. Can anyone tell me what the one on the right was if it's not the horse collar?
The face mask.
Face mask? Good. All right. And then the last type of fouls we're going to go over on the basic route is unsportsmanlike conduct. So we did talk about earlier in our starting question, unsportsmanlike, about how to keep sportsmanship and keep fair play and keep control and the proper flow of a ball game. And so whenever you see someone taunting, you see profanity, racist remarks, randomly kicking a ball to like stall play and just intentionally try to mess with the flow of the game, harming with intent, anything that you wouldn't see in sports or anything you wouldn't do in church or in front of your parents or at school at all, we really don't allow it on the football field as well. And it's a bit of a judgment call. It's a bit up, or I say judgment call, it's up to the referee's discretion and their choices as to how severe they want to penalize things. So that's what I mean when I say judgment call. But in general, those are the types of actions that will be an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. And that is that right there. That is the motion. And then there's sideline interference. And so this is something I saw a lot more than I realized. That's when a player or coach is not on the field, but they're still out of their space and they're interfering with officials or playing space. So let's say that this rug, or let's say that this boundary right here is the football field. Everything right there is the football field. Every football sideline has a restricted area, like a smaller strip, to where coaches cannot stay there, and that's just so referees and officials can move back and forth. And that's also so where, like, if players do get pushed out of bounds or they run with so much momentum and they run out of bounds, if that ever does happen, that way you're not endangering 50 plus people just by running in one direction, because those collisions can get at a very high speed and with a lot of equipment and with cleats on your foot, with metal spikes. You just want to avoid that, and so that is sideline interference. And that is that penalty right there. All right, so Hannah, so guess we'll just, can you show me what the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty is? Show the class what the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty is?
The sign.
Yeah, what the signal is?
This.
That? Okay. All right, and then, okay, then which one is the block in the back penalty from earlier?
This.
Okay, all right. And so what about the holding penalty? Holding. Holding? Okay, yes. All right. All right, good job. All right. So we'll have more scenario training later, and we'll definitely get plenty of opportunities to go over the motions and go over what the proper penalties to call are. So next up, we're going to talk about how many yards and penalty enforcements and that nature. So whenever you do commit a penalty, you don't get unpunished for it. You either move the ball forwards, the ball either gets moved closer to the end zone depending on who made a penalty, or further away from the end zone depending on who made a penalty, and either just is made to really discourage teams from making those penalties again. And so there are penalty yards to move back and forth in between plays. And so first, there are two different distinctions that you need to make to decide how many yards a penalty is worth and where the next play starts from as a result. So there are two different types of things. If the offense makes the foul, the team with the ball, or the defense makes the foul, that's one thing that you need a distinction you need to make. And then another is a loose ball foul or a running foul. That sounds difficult, but what the running foul is that anytime a ball is run forward and like you're actively running with the ball, that is the running foul. And then a loose ball is that anytime that a quarterback is holding on to it and he hasn't thrown it yet, that is still a loose ball. Anytime that a ball is still up for grabs and you don't know what the play is going, like anytime the quarterback is holding on to the ball and it hasn't been thrown yet, that is a loose ball foul. Yes.
I had a question. What you said about the ball foul when the quarterback hasn't, what is the time frame for him to keep it holded?
He can hold on to it for as long as he wants to, as long as he sees fit. And so.
But if he holds it more than a certain time period, it will count as a penalty, no?
No. Once the play is started, a play can go for minutes at a time if it wants to. It's just that with how fast people run and how fast and how violent the game is, the plays don't ever really go terribly long. However, loose ball foul, that could be for as long as, and a play might not ever go from a loose ball foul into the other stage. It might never progress from that. So loose ball foul, ball hasn't been thrown yet. Running foul, you're just running upfield. All right. So, in general, there's always exceptions and asterisks. But the rules for enforcing penalties go as follow. If the foul happened and the quarterback hadn't thrown the ball yet, and the play was still determined, and like the outcome of the play is yet to be determined, in general, you take the penalty and you enforce it, and you start counting up or back the yards. You start moving the ball from the previous spot. You go back to what the last play just started. So, if that's in the loose ball play, it's enforced at the previous spot. Now, if the ball is running up the field, if the offense commits a penalty when it's running up the field, you usually see the flag that's to display penalty thrown on the field, and that shows where the foul was committed. You start at that spot and either move the ball forwards or back from that reference point. Now, if the defense commits a foul and it's that kind of running play, they're just running the ball upfield, no throwing around, nothing of that sort. You start where that play ended, and then you start where the play ended, where they got tackled, and then you move forwards from there. That's called the succeeding spot. The spot and the place that the next one, the succeeding spot. So that is the general form. And so I'll admit that I probably couldn't tell you how to enforce penalties based off of each individual thing. Holding, you got to do that. Offense there, defense there. But I have that memorized, and that way I don't mess up penalties, because I know that in general, all penalties fall into this quadrant, into this table. So here is all the yards that you either add or subtract for the penalties that we learned today. So for all the pre-snap fouls, all the fouls that happen before the play starts, it's only 5 yards. And for the smaller penalties, intentional grounding, sideline warning, everything that happens that is kind of minor, it's only 5 yards. It could be either forwards or backwards depending on who does it, but anything that's minor is 5. Next thing is holding and blocking the back. Those are the middle fouls, and those fouls are 10 yards, either forwards or backs, blocking the back. Next up, you have all the major penalties, all the unsporting fouls, unsportsmanlike conduct, or any of the blocking fouls, blocking the back, chop block, clipping, pass interference. All of those penalties involve major contact and a lot of pain, and so that is 15 yards of a penalty. And so you definitely don't want to do that. So, all right. So, how many yards would a false start be? Since false start happens before the snap, how many yards would a false start penalty be? 5. Okay. How many yards would an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty be?
15.
15? Okay. So now, just to quiz y'all on it, there's also some simple exceptions. So, almost all penalties either result in the play repeating, like, okay, scratch that play, so let's do that play one more time, or it results in a first down. They get a new set of tries because they move the ball past the first down line. And then the only simple exception is intentional grounding. So if you throw the ball away, that's no repeated play. So let's say that this is your second or your third down out of 4, and you do that penalty, you don't get to retry third down. It goes straight to the 4th, and that is enforced at the end of the play. Now, if 2 penalties occur on the same team on the same exact play, the other team can only pick one to add yards or subtract yards for. You can only pick one to accept. Now, if one penalty occurs on both teams, those cancel out, and you just act as if that play never happened. So, unsportsmanlike conduct, it's always treated as a dead ball foul, meaning that you always add or subtract yardage after the play. Unsportsmanlike conduct, you always do the yardage after the play. And those are the simple exceptions. And so, pop quiz. Split y'all up into teams. We're going to play Who Wants to Be an Official, similar to Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. And you have 2 lifelines that you can use one time each during the duration of the game. And one is to eliminate 2 false answers. And number 2 is to phone a classmate or to phone a friend. That's just to get each other's help. So let's see if y'all can all, actually instead of 2 teams, we'll just have y'all all do it together. But there's going to be 3 questions. Let's see if y'all can go 3 for 3 on this. So first one, a false start is called on the offensive line before the play is called. What is the correct penalty enforcement? So, all right. So, it's A, 5 yards forwards from the previous spot, which means the offense moves 5 yards closer to their goal. B, 5 yards backwards from the previous spot, which means the offense goes 5 yards away from their goal. And then C is 10 yards behind, or D is 15 yards. I'll be right back in 30 seconds, so I'll go ahead and discuss amongst yourselves.
I go with the number B. Backwards. You go with. You're trying to do what you think. B or A? It has to be B or A.
Yeah.
I go with B.
It won't be a.
It's the offense line.
Okay.
It will proceed. So, yeah, we have 4.
Do you think I go? B? Okay. I go back. Oh, I learned. Good. Now next time we have to better.
Okay, so, all right, so we'll have Teresa, so I think we'll have you speak. So, what answer is it?
We choose number B.
Number B?
Yeah, it's a minor offense.
Okay,
So we call, and it's backwards from the previous spot,
okay.
the last that was done.
All right, yes, that is the correct answer. 5 yards backwards from the previous spot. Now, round number 2. The ball is thrown downfield, and the person on the defense is given a pass interference penalty. What is the correct penalty enforcement? Is it A, the offense moves 10 yards forwards from the spot of the last play? B, 15 yards forwards from the spot of the next play? C, 15 yards forward from the spot where the contact happened? Or D, 15 yards forward from the previous spot, which was the last play? All right, we'll be right back in 20 seconds, so I'm going to discuss amongst yourselves.
It should be B. You thinking it?
I was thinking number C. What do you think? Which one do you think? It should be.
in the running,
I know that it's 15 yards, but I choose for me number C because it's a penalty from the spot where the penalty occurred.
yeah, but this start from the spot of penalty only happened when it's loose. That means the ball is holding on their hand, but they have already threw it, so that should be running spot.
Running one.
Mm-hmm. So
But he didn't catch it.
Catch it.
Defensive player.
Oh,
we have start with previous spot, no matter it's defense or offense. They both start at the previous
So,
spot.
Is it pro or high school football? That's,
It is high school football. Yeah.
okay,
So
there's a difference.
so yeah, so it's y'all eliminated two answers and y'all were down to C and D, and so what's y'all's final answer for this one?
D.
D. D. Okay, yes. So since it is a loose ball foul, so nobody has run with the ball, they're still deciding what the outcome of the play is. It is still a previous spot penalty. I know it's a little different with high school and professional what it was, but yeah, I love the thinking there. That was a good job. And so yes, it is D, 15 yards forward from the previous spot. And next up, final round, round 3. The ball is run past the line of scrimmage, and an offensive lineman is flagged for grabbing the face mask of the defender. What is the correct penalty enforcement? Is it A, move 10 yards backwards from the spot the penalty was committed, from the spot where the face mask happened? Is it 10 yards backwards from where that play ended? Or is it 15 yards backwards from the spot of the penalty? Or is it 15 yards backwards from where the play ended? So I'll step aside for a few seconds, y'all discuss. We'll be right back with the answer.
And we have a lifeline, we can call a friend or
I'm gonna call a friend.
ask him.
We're calling a friend.
You sure?
Yeah, we're calling
You
a
can
friend.
pick up the phone. You sure? He can. He said
We're calling
something like that.
a friend.
Said we can,
Thank you.
might as well use our lifelines we have now.
Okay. That's when they succeeded. I know that was 15.
Yeah.
All right, y'all ready?
Yes.
Okay. So y'all used the phone a friend lifeline, and so what answer did y'all come up with after phoning a friend?
See?
C? All right, so it was 15 yards backwards from the spot of the penalty. Yes, and so what was the reasoning that y'all came up with to get to C?
It was because it's a face mask. You know, the face mask, grabbing the face mask, that's a major defense, so it's 15 yards.
Okay,
And it's going to be backwards,
okay,
and it's this part of the penalty where it's happened. the
Okay.
penalty, right there.
all right. So that's good. Good job, y'all. Y'all did very well there. And so now it gets a little harder. But for a closing exercise, I'm going to give y'all seven different scenarios, and y'all are all going to collaborate as a team. And we're going to call on you to answer by saying whether a penalty was committed. If it was, you have to tell me what that penalty was, and then you're going to tell me how many yards the penalty was and where to move it forward, back, and from where. So this is going to be a big combination of all that we've learned so far, and that will be the end of it, all right? So, number 1, there's that running back. That's the dot shown in purple. He's going to motion backwards, and then he's going to turn to the left and run parallel to the line of scrimmage, and then he's still moving that direction whenever the ball is snapped. What call does the referee end up making. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and start with Coco. So yeah, if y'all and feel free to help each other out with that. So it's trying to go backwards and then turn to the left, and he's still running this direction when the ball is snapped. What call does the referee make?
Is it false start?
False start? So is that a false start moving or?
No, it should be this.
Illegal.
Well, what direction is he running in? What direction is he running?
Parallel.
So
No call.
no call? That is correct. So
Wow.
yeah, I threw a decoy in there, but yes. If he were to turn forwards, what would that penalty call be if he were to turn forwards?
Illegal motion.
And then that was what you were saying with the hands. Illegal motion is that. So yes, besides the motion backwards, that is an illegal motion. No penalty was committed as the running back wasn't running towards the line of scrimmage when the ball was snapped. Scenario 2. This left tackle, purple dot, and that defensive end, they both move right before the quarterback gives the signal to snap the ball, with the defensive end appearing to move across the line of scrimmage first. So the defensive end appears to have made the first motion to cross the line. What call does the referee end up making? Teresa.
That's false start? Or the
So
when it's two moving,
So this is a different scenario there. So defensive end crosses the line, appears to cross the line of scrimmage before the play is snapped. What would the call be?
the false start.
No.
The false motion.
So
You got it
so
wrong.
you're either looking at what is it? May, what was the answer?
I think it is encroachment.
It is. You think it's encroachment? Okay. So how many? So you think it's a penalty? How many yards is encroachment?
It's 5.
Okay. And so, all right. So 5-yard penalty, encroachment on the defense. Y'all, is that the answer y'all going for?
Yes.
All right. Yes. So an encroachment foul was committed. The play is blown dead, so the play doesn't happen, and the offense moves 5 yards up from the previous spot, and it is still second down. Okay, next up. So this is 3rd down and 6. Both this tight end and this wide receiver, they both simultaneously move from the right to the left side of the formation, and the play starts, but when the play starts, this guy has stopped for a second over here, but this guy is still moving. Is that a penalty or not? And what is the proper call for that?
That would be a 5-yard penalty.
Okay,
In
Illegal shift.
oh, is that illegal motion?
okay, so I'm hearing illegal motion and I'm hearing illegal shift. So, all right. So whenever multiple people are moving
This,
and both of them haven't stopped, what is that penalty? Is that the illegal motion or the illegal shift?
Illegal shift.
Okay. And so, how many yards is that penalty?
5
Okay, it's 5 and it's on the offense, so does it go forwards or backwards?
backwards.
Backwards? And is it still 3rd down? Is it still the 3rd try? Okay. Yeah, it was a good job. So that was an illegal shift foul. So play is blown dead, and the offense moves backwards 5 yards from the previous spot, and you do end up repeating 3rd down.
Wow.
All right, number 4 of 7. So this running back is running the ball. He ends up just going and running with it. when this center on the offense holds the defensive tackle 6 yards past the line of scrimmage and ends up holding him. The running back ends up gaining 24 yards on the play. What call does the referee end up making?
Oh, he holds him. What is it?
Holding. Holding phone.
All right.
Yeah?
Yeah.
It's that one.
Okay.
10 yards.
10 yards.
Okay, so it's holding, and it's 10 yards. Where do we get the 10 yards? Where do you move the 10 yards backwards from?
From the spot that he started, or from the fence happened?
Is it the spot where he started, or is it the spot where the penalty happened?
The spot where the penalty happened.
Okay. All right. So is that, are y'all comfortable with that answer?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe we had double.
So yes, y'all did get that right. It was a holding foul, and after the play, the ball is moved 10 yards backwards from the spot of the foul. It is still second down. So in this case, since it happened 6 yards past the line, you go +6, and then you go back 10. So you'd be losing 4 yards. So that is something that's just a little bit weird on the math, but it's just very easy because what officials will do is that they'll go to the spot where the flag is, and then they'll mark off 10 yards and they'll do the motions walking backwards with that. All right, scenario 5. 3rd down and 17. A pass is thrown downfield. The cornerback on the defense ends up grabbing a wide receiver's arm while the football was passing by, and the ball hits the ground, doesn't touch any player, not at all. What call does the referee end up making?
Just grabbing.
And that's it. Just grabbing, that's a 5 penalty,
But-
5 yard.
So, okay.
Maybe don't call.
Because it doesn't go because the wide receiver football was passing by, because the football part was passing by and the pass was incomplete. No, the pass was incomplete. That was
So, but the ball is passing by. The ball is in the air. So we're both going for the pass, and someone grabs another receiver's arm. Is there a specific penalty for that one?
no.
Okay. So yeah, this one was a bit difficult and made it difficult on purpose. But that is, remember what this one was? I did this one for blocking it back, but there was another one that I did this one for. What was it?
The whole
It was a pass interference.
interference.
Pass interference. Yeah, I know it's a little difficult, but don't worry about that. But it's pass interference. And so, pass interference, was that a 5, 10, or 15 yard penalty? Was that like a minor one or a major?
5. No?
15.
It was, yes, it was 15.
Okay.
Okay, so that was a pass interference penalty, and the ball is moved 15 yards down the field. And since they still had 17 to get to the next line to gain, it'll still be third down, 2 yards to go, and that's a defensive pass interference penalty. Okay, 2 more scenarios to go. Okay, so 1st down and 10, the guard on the offense ends up grabbing a defensive end's jersey and pulling him backwards. A pass is completed downfield where a linebacker ends up grabbing the ball carrier's, where the guy on the defense, linebacker, ends up grabbing a ball carrier's face mask and pulls him to the ground. What is the referee's call to make?
It's two
Even.
penalty that happened. It's
Before
the two offense and defense team had they do penalty, both of them.
Okay.
So they cancel.
They won't move.
So what was the penalty that the offense team did?
The offense is pause.
Pull it back.
So, okay. So it ends up pulling him backwards. Okay. Holding? Okay. And what was the penalty the defense player did?
Face mask.
Face mask.
Okay, and y'all had the right call there. So the correct answer. So it was an offensive holding penalty, or it could have been a horse collar, because that could also be grabbing from behind, but I meant holding there. And then a defensive face mask penalty. That's what was committed. So those penalties offset since there's one penalty from each team, and then you retry as if the play never happened from the same exact spot. All right, and then the final one. On 3rd down and 17, a pass is thrown downfield. The cornerback ends up grabbing a wide receiver's arm. The football is passing by, but the ball was incomplete, hits the ground. And then after the play, the cornerback decides to throw a punch and lands it on the receiver's neck. Y'all laugh, but I've seen this happen before. What call does the referee end up making?
On sport. In sport.
On sportsmanlike conduct?
Yeah.
Okay. And so is that the only penalty on the play there?
Because they're grabbing the arm receiver.
Okay.
Pass interference.
So that was pass interference and then on sportsmanlike conduct? Okay. So do you enforce them both at the same time, or do you do one and then the other? How do we move the ball up, and where do we move yards here?
The most significant one.
So this was one of the exceptions that I made earlier.
Because both are 50.
Yeah. Okay. So both are 15-yard penalties,
Okay.
but on sportsmanlike conduct is happened after the play. So this grabbing the receiver's arm happened during the play.
So you call that one first.
Call that one first, and then after the play, call that one again. Call the unsportsmanlike one.
Yeah.
So, and how many yards were both of the penalties?
15.
15. So how many yards do you move forward from there?
30.
30? 30. Yes.
Don't you move from the spot of the foul for the first one, and then 15, and then another 15, so it could actually be more.
30.
It is considered 30 because for the penalty that happened during the play, you have a defensive pass interference penalty, and that would make you move it 15 yards from the spot of the foul. And then unsportsmanlike conduct, that was one of the exceptions that is considered when the play is dead, and it happened after the play. So everything that happened during the play is over, and then the unsportsmanlike is tacked onto that.
I
And
was
so-
talking from actually from the where the ball was snapped from. You're not including that in the 30 yards, but it could be more, right?
No, you start from the previous spots where the ball was snapped from, and that's from the first 15, and then that ends the play.
Oh, this is not pro. This is
Yeah, this is this is high school. So a defensive pass interference penalty and a defensive unsportsmanlike conduct penalty were committed. The 15-yard pass interference penalty is enforced first, so you go from 3rd down and 17, but they get 15 yards closer, so they'll have 2 yards to get. And so that ends the play. But then after the play is when the punch happens, and then you move 15 yards further. So that's enforced on top of that. So the ball in total is 30 yards ahead of where it was, and the next play is 1st down and 10. So yeah, it was a good job. That was a very difficult scenario training, but just any questions so far?
So these, when these rules apply different when it's football, when it's high school, different when it's a pro?
There are some. It is not radically different, but you do have some rules that are interpreted differently. Mostly, it's pass interference and intentional grounding are the big ones, and maybe blocking the back that are different between high school, college, and professional. High school and college are more similar than college and the pros are, but so it can be confusing. And I know people who have officiated in SEC, highest level college football games, and then the next day they're officiating with me, officiating high school football. and then high school football. And they still need help because some of the rules have changed and they're so different. And so there is a bit of a learning curve between levels, but that's how it does work.
Okay.
And just some next steps. So if this is something you'd be interested in doing, you just continue learning the proper penalty signals. Like sometimes I just go ahead in the mirror, I just work on getting arm motion, getting a proper whistle, and then learn the exceptions because there are some asterisks. Another thing is to watch football and just focus on specific parts of the field because there are going to be 5 to 7 of y'all on the field, and so you can't quite see everything at once. You need to know what you need to look out for and what's your responsibility, and then to learn positioning, where you need to be at the right time. But if nothing else, that concludes my presentation. Thank y'all very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ooh.